Frosty.
Frosty. Frosty. Frosty.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's another week for Frosty Vlogs, and I want to have a closer conversation with you. So I've been looking at some of my material for the last 8 weeks, and I've noticed a kind of pattern building up in all of them, I guess. I'm kind of turning these vlogs into a bit of a video diary, and I don't hate the idea of that, except I don't think I do enough interesting stuff in my life to really make a diary out of it. So I want to try to shift this a little bit. You know, I still want to talk about movies and games and stuff because I find them interesting, but I feel better once I've got more of an audience going with you, you know, really relying on that conversation I was talking about before, where, you know, you tell me things I should watch or play and then I get back to you about it. That's the sort of relationship I think would be good with that sort of stuff. So until that starts picking up, I'm really just going to talk about the ones that kind of like happen and I'm like, oh, that was really neat. For instance, I just watched Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl for the I don't know how manyth time. I've been wanting to watch it for like a year when I was playing Kingdom Hearts 2, the HD remaster of it, and got to the Pirates level and I thought, man, I want to watch this movie again. And I just put it off until yesterday. And I finally watched it, and I gotta tell you, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's a great movie. I really enjoy watching it. I like that it takes a lot of twists and turns, and you're like, what the heck is going on here? The visual effects in it are really neat. You know that they're not really zombies, but they're really well designed, even though they're fake. And I appreciate that. Because there's so many things that you look back and you watch, especially from around the time that it came out, which I'm fairly certain is early 2000s, and, you know, they just look like dirt. And this still looks good. And Flubber, which I believe I talked about last week, unless I recorded that. Gonna level with you. I recorded one for this week, and I decided to do a different one last minute because I just sort of decided on a whim that I want to change things up a little bit. So if I haven't talked about Flubber, Flubber's another one that's really good, and the CGI in it was really well done. I'm a big fan. Anyway, I'm interested in getting a bit more, I don't know, deep sometimes and silly other times. I want to just sort of talk, you know? I want to figure out, I want to find topics and talk about them, things that interest me. Like, one thing that recently came up on my Facebook that I thought was just fascinating, right? There was this post about increasing the minimum wage. And so if you're about to get like angry or upset, then go ahead. You can leave. You're excused from the video. But if you're interested in what I have to say on this, please stay tuned, because I think what I have to say is a very positive approach to the discussion. The post was something like, milk costs $1 for a gallon, and you make enough money where after taxes you have $1. So you can go ahead and buy that milk every week, and it's great. But you want more. So let's say that we increase the minimum wage to $18 like you've been asking. Well, now that you have the $18, you can afford all kinds of milk, right? Except no, because the milk with the added cost of making it, because you have to pay the workers involved in the milk process that $18 an hour, milk now costs $15 to buy instead of just $1. On top of which is the fact that you're now in a new tax bracket. So now instead of having, you know, like $15 after taxes, which one would assume, since the last time you were left with an exact amount to buy milk, you would think you'd have the same amount now. You left over with $13 because the math was there. I don't remember it. That's not the part that I want to talk about. Anyway, it was implying that because we raised the minimum wage, it's going to affect the cost of goods. And that's not wrong. I'm going to post a link to something I've been reading. It's a .org, which high school taught me is more reliable than a .com. It helped me because I've heard a lot of talk about inflation being caused by raising the minimum wage, and that's not wrong. That is a problem, but the other problem that goes along with it is actually apparently too much success. If if too many people are employed and making money, then the cost of goods goes up as well because everyone can afford to buy them and the people making the goods aren't making enough to reach their demand. And so doing well and doing poorly both screw you over in inflation, which to me just says inflation's going to happen no matter what. Like, unless we could find a way to safely ride a middle zone. And again, not the part I want to talk about, but something I felt worth mentioning. No, what I want to discuss with you is my ideal situation were a minimum wage to be lifted up higher than it is. And the reason why I say that is I think that, on the one hand, the very liberal people that I understand are the ones pushing this idea believe that there's too much fat at the top. And that if the rich people who seem to be ignoring the idea of trickle-down economics, which as I understand it is the people at the top, send money on down because they have enough to share with everyone. If they were to actually do that by raising the minimum wage, then nothing has to go up in price because it's not the business losing money, it's the individuals at the top running the business losing money. And they have enough money that they could probably bleed it, and that upsets a lot of people, which is understandable because having too much money is a little ridiculous. But again, I'm creating topics to discuss in future videos. This one is about hope and a dream. And my hope and my dream is that if we were to raise the minimum wage, going back to the milk discussion, let's say you have $18 after taxes, just because it's easier to assume that than to talk about the $13 after tax. I don't care. Point is, milk could still cost just $1 because milk is smart. Milk knows that even though they're paying their people $18 an hour, everyone else is getting paid that same amount. Everybody wants or needs milk unless they're lactose intolerant. That's the only type of people that aren't going to buy your product. And it's not just homeowners who buy milk for their families and themselves. It's businesses who need to make food and bake goods. I mean, there's so many things milk goes into, which is why it's such an interesting choice for the metaphor here, or the simile. I haven't really paid much attention to what that infographic was, gotta be completely honest. So, milk charges just $1. Everyone now has 18 times the amount they were making before, which means, in theory, they could individually buy 18 times the milk that they were buying in the first place. Milk is now making 18 times the amount they were before, as opposed if they increase the price of their goods while everyone else was making more money, which would mean that they could only sell the same amount as before. So you see, the interesting part here is that even though nobody really intends on spending $18 on 18 gallons of milk every week, that doesn't mean that we can't think about, like, what if everyone just started to buy 2 gallons, right? And the people who already were buying 2 started to buy 2.5 or 3. By keeping the same price for their milk, they can still increase the amount of sales that they were having before, which in time could very well even out or even exceed past the point that they were making before. So I guess my proposition here is, if a higher minimum wage is placed, or if, people continue to worry about the minimum wage, instead of trying to increase the price of your product, let the product ride. If you have to sacrifice something from yourself at the top, big CEOs, do it. Because if it's a good enough product that's going to be used by enough people that you're going to be selling it a lot, especially in the food industry, there's no reason to expect people to not want to buy more. It makes sense to me. I don't know. I'm not gonna claim to be an economist. I enjoyed that class, but mostly because they gave me bubblegum to try to prove that too much of the same thing gets annoying, and I ended up with this giant wad of bubblegum. It was double bubble, if you're wondering, and yes, it was old, but I was just happy to have sugar in my mouth, so I never complained. It was awesome. And then I went to choir. I had to spit it out in front of the class. It's just wad of bubblegum. It was pretty cool to me. I don't think anyone else cared. The teacher cared. He didn't like that. He thought that I was putting on a show, and I was just like, nah, I'm genuinely comfortable chewing this much gum. I have a huge mouth, so, Anyway, if you like discussions like this, let me know, because I'd really like to know. I realized that I got off topic a lot, and that's something I'm going to have to work on if I want to keep doing these sorts of videos, and I do. A lot of my friends have told me, you got to start working on scripts, and I think if I'm gonna do stuff like this, I might at least start bullet pointing. I've been making lists about stuff to talk about, but those were for my basically diary vlogs, and I'm not really looking to keep doing those sorts of things. So here's hoping this goes forward and it succeeds. And if it turns out that you really did enjoy the daily vlogs more, I mean, not the daily, but the weekly vlogs about, my life or what's going on or whatever, just pretty relaxed, please let me know, because I can go back to doing those. As long as I don't have much of an audience right now, I might as well start experimenting and just sort of see where this all goes. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Have a great one.